To Select Committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
To conclude the debate and in reply, Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. And can I firstly thank the House for their kind words and their support of this bill. This bill does have personal meaning to me, but over time I have gained a deeper knowledge of the many and varied families that it affects. I want to take this 5 minutes to be very, very clear for not only the members of this House, but for the members of the public, and for those families particularly to submit their stories to the Select Committee to make sure that the picture of what they are dealing with is understood by the wider community of New Zealand taxpayers, so that when the $16 million possible price tag is put out there, that does not stop conversation, because this is about children and their equity in circumstances beyond their control. We can talk about the money and we can move money around, but really what this is about is that an orphan is an orphan. And it's interesting to me that when I've been asked to speak on this bill, people have asked me not to use the term orphan, that they don't like it, that it's not a word for today. They are orphans. Today, I spent lunch with a grandmother whose daughter was murdered. She is now raising her 6-year-old grandson. She gave up a 6-figure income because that child needs her to be there. She is a grandparent. She is not of retirement age. She requires and lives on this benefit for that child, $10,700 a year. But because she is a kin carer, because she has a blood relation to that child, she does not receive between the $1,000 to $1,700 a year that she could receive. She does not receive psych services for that child. There is some ACC payments of $134 a week. I want New Zealand to hear that this is not massive amounts of money. This is not grandparents becoming rich off this as a scam. This is a real equity issue but for these children. I want to acknowledge Melissa Lee and just take up the comment about the role that grandparents play in different ethnicities. My mother was raised by her grandmother. My mother was then taken in under a whāngai relationship by Maud Mohi. My mother now lives in an extended family situation with our family and assists with our grandchildren. Grandparents do it all the time. But I ask every member of this House that is a grandparent, every member of this House that is an aunt or an uncle, to now take a moment to remember the last time you played with and visited with those grandchildren or nieces and nephews. And now I want you to imagine that tonight, in the dead of the night, there is a knock on your door and a police officer with a SIFS officer and those children show up saying somebody has to take in these children. There has either been a murder, or there is now drug addiction, or there is mental illness, or there is another very, very real reason why these children need to come into your home. Can you continue working? Is your home big enough to take those children? There's another grandmother I'm working with in Wellington here. She got a call from the Australian authorities. 4 grandchildren she flew to Sydney to pick up and bring back here. She gave up her $60,000 a year job. 4 grandchildren due to the drug addiction of the parents that she now is looking after. I ask you, think about it in your own life before we make a decision that this is something we cannot do. I thank the House for their time. I thank the House for their support, and I look forward to working with the Select Committee going forward. Kia ora.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Social Security Clothing Allowances for Orphans and Unsupported Children Amendment Bill, first reading.
The question is that the Social Security Clothing Allowance for Orphans and Unsupported Children Amendment Bill be considered by the Social Services Committee. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call on Members' Order of the Day number 3.
Care of Children Law Reform Bill, first reading.